So recording the instructions for the CRM 2011 Applications courseware sample data import process, and we'll start with the things that we should do pre-import. I think there's three that need to be done first, otherwise some of the sample data won't migrate. And two are in the same category. We want to create contract templates, one for time-based with an allotment type of time, that's the most important piece, and one that's incident-based contract template that has an allotment type of number of cases. And then we need to modify the default unit group in the product catalog. We're basically just changing its name and the name of the primary unit. So let me switch to the demo database and show you where those things are. So if we go to Settings, Templates, Contract Templates, here are the two that have been added. This service one is a default, that's going to already be there. So added hourly support. Hourly support, abbreviation, the name and the abbreviation need to be exactly what you see here. The allotment type, that's important, needs to be time, and you can't save it without filling in a calendar, so just click 24/7 support. That's hourly support, and then there's one similar called incident-based support, the abbreviation of incidents, and the important thing here is the number of cases. So those are the two that get created there. Now the product catalog. The only change we need to the product catalog, we need to make to the product catalog before the import, is to change the default unit group, which is actually named default, change it to products, and change the primary unit to each. You see that here. So we're ready to go for the import. So that's what you do before. Then go to Data Management, Imports, and I've got some things here from a previous import that I did. I'll just go ahead and delete those. I'm going to delete the import source files because the file that we'll work with to do the import is a self-contained zip file. So we'll choose import data here, browse out. The zip file is called MSL sample data, and it is self-contained. It contains all the record types, entities that we need to import. Click Next. And we can just accept all the defaults, and we'll select the default automatic mapping option in the data maps section, so we don't have to worry about doing any mapping. And then we're going to ignore any unmapped fields or anything the rest of the way. We'll just keep clicking Next. Just one comment here. Users cannot be deleted in Dynamic CRM, so the fact that I've done this import once on a test basis and already have users in here, we're going to generate some errors because it can't import the same users twice. Don't worry too much about users if you do this. I suspect that the sample organization is already going to have users in it anyway, so if we don't import users, that's not that big a deal. But I'm just going to click Next here, and I'm going to ignore unmapped fields. And I'll accept all the defaults there. Click Submit. And then we still got to click Finish when this is done. Okay, then you get this. And it waits for a minute. I'll pause the recording while we're waiting. Okay, let's see how we did. So we can see that that zip file actually contains records for lots of different record types in Dynamic CRM. So we have accounts, cases, contracts, goal metrics, leads, marketing lists, opportunities, price lists, products, even a roll-up query and a few sites. They all came in successfully. The only errors we got were on users, which I expected because we already have users in the system. Can't delete them, and Dynamic CRM won't import those twice. But it doesn't hurt to leave those in there so I don't have to change the files that are contained in the zip file all the time. Now, what we want to do, since the import happened correctly is let's take a look at the post import steps. And in general, it may not matter the steps you do these in, but it might, so probably best to do them in this order. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to make some changes to the goal management pieces that we imported, and I'm going to open up the goal metric and add roll-up fields, because we cannot import roll-up fields apparently. Learn something new every day. So the goal metric that was imported successfully is a goal metric for qualified leads. So I open that up, and what I need to do is add the roll-up fields. And without roll-up fields, the goal metric really doesn't do much for you because it's not pointing to a particular entity or anything. So I'm going to add without those. So I'll add those here. So roll-up field, add a new roll-up field. These are really what defines the substance of this thing. And the roll-up field that I'll define first, I'll do actual. This is going to go up against the lead entity. And the record type that I want for actual is qualified. And then I need to specify the date field that determines what qualified means. And this is really modified on, because when a lead's qualified, it is modified. So that'll be the date that it was qualified. So I'll go ahead and do a save and close. And then I want to add one more. I want to add an in progress. Actual goes away because you can only have one of those per goal metric. So I choose in progress, same record type, lead. Record type state. Now for in progress is open. And in this case, the date field is going to be created on. So if a lead record is created in a particular month, and I've got a goal based on this goal metric for a month, then something that's created, that has a created on value and is open for that month, will be contributing record, participating record for the goal. So that's what I want for those two pieces there. That's the goal metric, and then we're done with that, so I can go ahead and save and close. That's the goal metric. Go back to the instructions here. Now what we want to do is create a new goal record, and for the goal record we're going to assign it to the marketing team, which was created as part of the import process. We're going to base it on that goal metric, and then we'll create it for the current month. We'll give it a target, and then we need to make sure that there's a roll-up query that was also, I believe, created as part of the import process. And we're going to base this goal on that roll-up query. So the first thing that let's do is go validate that we have the roll-up query. Here's the all leads roll-up query. So that was created as part of the import process. So let's go to goals, and let's create a new goal. And let's call this qualified leads March. So that's the current month here. And we want to assign this to the marketing team. So for owner, select team, marketing. And these teams were also imported as part of the import process, so they should be there. So there's my marketing team. The goal metric will be qualified leads. Picks that up. And why is it not like that? Let's go see. That's better. We want to do a custom period. Notice the default is quarterly. But we want to choose a monthly period, and we'll choose it from 3/1 to 3/31. If you're doing this in April and you want some records to be participating, and you're using the sample data set, and you want some of those leads to show up contributing to your goal, then you want to make that for April, whatever the current month happens to be when you've got some records that were created. Let's give it a target of 20, save it. And then last but not least, we need to go down here and specify the goal criteria. Since the records that we want to participate in this goal aren't necessarily going to be owned by this marketing team, they might be owned by users that are members of the team, or maybe not. But in any case, that doesn't define the record set for the roll-up, so we need to specify all here, and then that's what these roll-up queries do for us. These are a little bit confusing the first time you encounter them, but generally speaking, they're used for situations where the owner of the goal is not necessarily 100% the same as the owner of all of the records that you want to roll up to contribute to the goal. So that's what we want for this goal record. So now we're good for our goal record. Go back to the instructions. Okay, now what we want to do is for one of the labs or a demo, even service marketing collection, we just need a couple of items in the queue. It doesn't really matter which items. They're referred to somewhat generically in the courseware, but we want to have a couple of items in that marketing queue if we can, so it won't be confusing to somebody going through that. And so what you might do, if you've got the sample data set installed, you could go to Workplace, Activities, and you select all activities, but we can see we don't. So what I'm going to do now is go to Data Management and turn on sample data. I turned it off to do the import, although it could work either way, but I'll go ahead and turn it on now so we have some sample data there to work with. So I'll install the sample data, and when this comes back, I'll click Close. Now it takes its time to come in, but let's go see where we're routing these things to. If I go to Business Management and look at the queues, these are my active queues, but if I look at active queues, what you'll see is we have queues for marketing, sales, and service. Those are the three teams that were imported as part of the import process, and notice we have team queues for these users. These are the default queues that get created automatically when users or teams are created. So if I look at this marketing queue, we're going to route some items to this marketing queue. Or no, it's a service queue. Same difference though. Let's close out of here. And notice that the owner of the service default queue for service is the service team. So I'm going to go to the service team, and let's make sure that this team has a security role, because if it doesn't, it won't be able to have records assigned to it. There's the salesperson security role. That should be fine. And what I'll do now is I'll go to the workplace, and we'll go to activities. Here we've got activities, so it doesn't really matter what we do. I'll select a couple of tasks in a phone call. Best that these are open, and I'll add to a queue, and let's go put these in the service queue. And now if I go to queues, and let's minimize the Get Started pane, and let's look at all queues, all items. And let's look in the service queue. So here are those three activity records that were routed to the service queue. So now we're good to go with that. Let's get back to the instructions. And so marketing, let's route a couple to the marketing queue just in case. Either way, I think we'll verify that, but I believe it may be service. But let's route these to the marketing queue. Better safe than sorry, I guess. Now what we want to do is go back to the instructions, and here we need to, this is an important one, we have a contract that was migrated as part of the import process, but we need to create line items and then activate the contract by choosing invoice, and I'll show you how that works. So I go to service, With contracts, here's the contract that gets imported, the active cycling support contract. Notice that it's assigned to the customer, active cycling. What I want to do here though, is we can't use a contract to resolve a case unless it's got contract lines and it's in an active state. So we go to contract lines. We're going to add a new contract line. This contract is based on that hourly template that we talked about in the pre-import process, and this is going to be level 1 support. And what I need to do is specify how many minutes, since this is a time-based template. I'll suppose this is say 600 minutes, 10 hours, and let's suppose they're getting the price of 1,000, effectively $100 an hour for this. And if I then save that, I'll save and close. Now that this contract, open that up again. Now that the contract has contract lines, and we are within the contract period, start date is less than where we are, and then end date is greater than where we are. Now what we can do is invoice the contract, and as soon as I do that, this record is going to go to read only, and now this contract will be able to be used to resolve cases. So now we're done with that piece. And then the last bit is we need to add these facility equipment records, and may be able to add these to the import, but couldn't get that done for the first round, so they're here. So we're going to do seminar kits and service bays, and the important thing about the service bays is that they need to be attached to sites, the North Service Center and the South Service Center. So for those facilities and equipment, we're going to go to Business Management, Facilities Equipment. Notice we don't have any, so we'll click New, and I'll first do the seminar kits. And let's refer back and make sure we get this right. Seminar kit, singular. And this does not need to be associated with the site, so I'll just call it seminar kit. And the other one is called seminar kit large venue. This is going to have a capacity requirement, but we set that in the course. We don't need to do that here. Let's make sure I got that right. Seminar kit large venue. Yep, just like that. Now we want the service bays, Service Bay 1 North and Service Bay 2 North. So this is going to be Service Bay 1 North, and let's get that properly cased there. And these, importantly, need to be attached to sites. And notice the North Service Center and the South Service Center are there. They were brought in as part of the import. So there's my North Service Center. And I'll get this on the clipboard so I don't have to type again. And then this is Service Bay 2 North. This is going to be North Service Center. And then the South Service Center only has one service bay, Service Bay South. That becomes important in the scheduling, service scheduling module. Service Bay South, and we'll go ahead and select this one, South Service Center. Okay, that's good. And that's what we got.